You're listening to the Mastering Money in Midlife podcast with Debbie Sasson, episode 47.
Welcome to Mastering Money in Midlife, a podcast for midlife women in business to overcome financial anxiety and make more money without burning out or sacrificing their families. Join certified life and money coach Debbie Sasson as she shares practical business strategies and mindset shifts that help you dissolve the money blocks that keep you stuck in a cycle of under-earning and under-saving, sabotage the growth of your business, and prevent you from building the wealth that you desire.
Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the podcast. I am excited to introduce you today to a guest. I'm sitting here with Faigy Pollock. Faigy is a kallah teacher. She helps Jewish brides to prepare for their weddings, and she's also an EFT practitioner. She specializes in intimacy and sexual function. Faigy likes to think of herself as a handholder. She holds the hand of women as they embark upon the journey to a happier, healthier, and more satisfying intimate life. She's helped hundreds of women of all ages and stages work through the stuff that gets in the way of them enjoying themselves and having an intimate experience in the bedroom. She's also created an online course called Unblock Your Way to Oneness to help women work through all of that stuff that gets in the way. Faigy is blessed with 7 children, ranging in age from 2 to 20. And like me, Faigy lives in Israel. Welcome to the podcast, Faigy.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm a big fan of your work. I listen to your podcast every week, and I am so honored to be a guest. I'm so excited to dive right in and share what I can and just bring some happiness and light to the people listening.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, so we'll jump in, and I'd like to give the listeners a little bit of background to why I wanted to record this interview with you and why it is so near and dear to my heart at this time of the year. So right now, when this podcast is being published, we are in the holiday of Sukkot, the Jewish holiday of Sukkot. We have just finished experiencing Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur and creating a more intimate relationship with God, with our Creator. And I approach all relationships in a similar way. We have a relationship with God, our relationship with money, our relationship with our businesses, and our relationship with our partners, and our relationship with ourselves. And when we want to create more intimacy in the bedrooms, it's going to also involve creating a deeper, more personal and intimate relationship with ourselves. And that's why I thought that this time of year would be such a perfect time to bring you in to share with us your knowledge and your expertise. So why don't you start by giving us a little bit of background, how you got into the work that you're doing, and also share with us your top tips or mindset shifts or way of thinking about intimacy that will be helpful to our listeners right now.
Great. Thank you. Sounds wonderful. So just in line with what you were saying about this time of year, I would just like to just add a beautiful bit of inspiration. We see that starting with the Hebrew month of Elul, which is like the end of the summer, school year starts, a lot of new beginnings, but really it's the end of the Jewish year. And it's a very, very special month of ultra closeness with God. It's when God literally, in a sense, God is everywhere all the time. God is existence. But the energy that Elul gives us, that gift of God being even closer, so to speak, and him coming towards us, so to speak, and inviting us into an intimate relationship with him, and that culminating with the day of Yom Kippur, and then Sukkot, which is when it's almost like the groom taking the bride home together into their home to start building their intimate relationship together and going into that sukkah with God, so to speak, and leaving all our material needs in our home and going out and connecting for 7 days, days of joy, days of happiness, almost like the 7 days that bride and groom rejoice after their wedding. So it's like a honeymoon with God. Like that's really the essence of Sukkot. That's why it's called the time of our happiness, of simcha, of joy. And there's even that additional day where God says, you've been with me for so many days, please stay for one more day. So this beautiful way to start the year with this tremendous, concentrated closeness with God, that's really what these holidays are all about. And I do hope that we all experience it and feel it that way, and that it really accompanies us into a very, very sweet year. So how did I get to do the work that I'm doing? So I feel like many people, you look around the world and you see that a lot of times people, when challenged with certain challenges, share the revelations, realizations, clarities that they've reached with others because they feel so passionate because they struggle. So much in the same way, also the EFT, which I'm an advanced EFT practitioner, and also teaching, as you described, I teach brides before their wedding. The main focus being teaching them about intimacy, because for the clientele that I am teaching, these are girls who very often their exposure to sexuality, and definitely their exposure to healthy sexuality, is very, very, very limited. And entering marriage and this new phase of life where intimacy is going to be such an important factor of marriage, the education and all the Jewish understandings and the beautiful Jewish laws, everything surrounding this topic of intimacy, that's where what they call a kallah teacher, a bride teacher, comes into the picture to help prepare these girls to ease from being a young girl, a teenager, a young woman, to becoming a married woman. And when I first got married, it's been now my oldest, thank God I just made the wedding this year. My oldest just got married. And when I got married, I was less fortunate, and the education that I received wasn't adequate. And that created for my husband and I certain challenges that had we had the awareness and the knowledge, then the beginning could have been smoother, things could have been different. And I am very, very thankful to all the good people in my life that I've been blessed with throughout my journey. But at the very beginning, feeling very, very alone, not knowing where to turn, not knowing where to find answers. And that was a very, very frightening experience. And we've been very blessed, my husband and I, that we figured it out. We worked out our things. We reached out for help when we needed. And we are where we are today because of those challenges. And today I know with clarity that it's those difficulties that ignited the passion in my heart to share this information with others so that others don't have to struggle in that way. But not everyone is as lucky. It doesn't work out like that for everyone. And unfortunately, many failed marriages can be traced back to lack of knowledge, lack of guidance, lack of clarity and understanding of intimacy. Because intimacy, and I see this across the board, I see this everywhere, universally, intimacy is such a taboo topic, even with today's openness and permissiveness, and we talk about everything. Still, at the root, people experience intimacy as something uncomfortable. And I hope and pray that that changes. Intimacy should always be something that's spoken about with respect, with privacy, but it doesn't need to be taboo, and it doesn't need to be an uncomfortable topic. It just needs the right time and the right context. And because it's like that, so many people struggle alone in the dark. So that's where, over the years and through my challenges, and thank God being blessed with the clarity, I'm not even going to say that I took it upon myself. I feel like God landed this in my lap and basically nudges me on my shoulder and says, go into the world, share this with everyone, share this with all the women who are open, their hearts are open to hear and listen, and shine that light and just bring that joy and happiness to people's lives. So that's how I ended up really starting out as first preparing brides for their wedding, eventually started working with young women right after they got married, eventually became an EFT practitioner, and added to the toolbox also therapeutic tools that I can really, really help people at a deeper level. And I would imagine that anyone on your podcast is probably somewhat familiar with EFT because you are also quite a skilled EFT practitioner. So it's an incredible therapy that just helps us break through layers, go deeper, quicker, faster than other therapies that I'm familiar with, and just help us undo all that stuff. As you introduced me so eloquently, it's the stuff that gets in the way. It's all the preconceived notions, all the mistakes, all the negativity, all the baggage that we carry, and all that doesn't allow us to just have a healthy relationship with ourselves, with our body, with our spouse, with sexuality. And that's where hopefully I feel it's my life's work, my mission, to share that clarity with the world.
That's so amazing. Really, thank you for sharing your journey. And as you were speaking, even before you said the word taboo about intimacy, I was thinking about our relationship with money and how money is a taboo topic. And I say that money is the last frontier, that people will actually speak about sexuality or intimacy and their sexual relationship with their partners, even before they will delve into their relationship with money. And similarly, very few of us are taught anything about money in a healthy way as we're growing up. We're expected to absorb it through osmosis. most of us don't get lessons before we get married on how to have a healthy relationship with money in our partnership. I've worked with so many people who were able to manage money on their own. They knew how much they were making, whether they were working in babysitting or working in a coffee shop, or even like I was working on Wall Street. And so I had my money coming in. I knew what was in my bank. I knew what was going out of my bank account, never got into debt. And my husband and I are not lovers of debt anyway. So we're not the type of couple that gets into credit card debt or overdraft, in general. We have had some loans that we've taken on, but so many people jump into their relationships and the husband comes from one background with one money story. The wife comes from a different background, a different money story, and they put them together. And it's sometimes so confusing. There's a lot of tension around it. And we don't know how to talk about money in a healthy way. And we're trying to create a relationship with our partner, create a relationship with our money. And just like marriages have been broken up, they didn't survive because of problems with intimacy and in the bedroom. Money is the number one cause of divorce, according to the research that we have. I mean, money,
Wow.
I say, is never the reason why couples get divorced, because money is just a thing. It's just coins and paper and line entries in your bank account. But so many couples end up fighting about money and using money as a weapon against their partner. And I imagine that you see similar things happening with the people that you work with.
Yeah, for sure. Except that with intimacy, unlike money, where money is just a thing and it comes and it goes, intimacy it goes so much deeper. So it's all the more so tricky. I think that a lot of like what you were saying about the differences between how a husband and wife might approach their money is also going to impact their intimate relationship. Because if, let's say, a wife doesn't feel taken care of, and one way to show that you take care of someone is by being willing to spend money on it. Now, that's not the only way. There are many ways, but we even see that our sages, we say that how does a Jewish husband make his wife happy before before the holidays? He buys her clothing, he buys her jewelry. That means that the wise people of our nation understood that a woman needs to feel taken care of in order to feel safe and loved and cherished. And that requires spending, right? So a man makes, he makes livelihood, he brings it home, he takes care of his wife. So today is, of course, different. And today we have many women, they're in the role of the breadwinners. But at the end of the day, it's being taken care of. And very often that's going to translate monetarily. So if a wife doesn't feel in the daytime taken care of by her husband because, let's say, she feels like he's stingy or she feels like he spends too much, you don't care about our safety, you don't care about our security, you just go and buy whatever you want. Whatever way, she's not going to feel taken care of. When a woman doesn't feel taken care of, she doesn't feel safe. And when a woman doesn't feel safe, it's going to be very hard for her to open up to an intimate relationship. So even though money is something that we might say, keep everything out of the bedroom, don't bring anything into the bedroom with you. It's impossible not to bring everything into the bedroom with you because we are the total of all of our experiences. And how we feel about money and how we feel about our partner's money story and how compassionate we can or cannot be towards his story, that's going to directly influence how we relate at the most intimate level. So I feel like doing this work on how we relate to each other, how we relate to each other regarding to intimacy, how we relate to each other regarding to money is all so intertwined. And it's almost as if you start working on one thing, you'll for sure also get to something else. Like I see it with my own clients. I'm not a money coach. I'm being coached by you, Debbie, right? I'm still working through my stuff. And like you always teach us, we're always being coached and we're always working through our stuff. But I see all the time that clients will come to me and let's say they'll come for a few sessions and then they'll say, okay, this is all we can afford. My husband said I can't come again. We can't afford it, right? So then we'll spend a whole session talking about beliefs about money when really, why did she come to me? She came to me because she was having intimacy struggles. But it all ties in at the end of the day because it's what we make money mean. Like you were saying, money it's just the lines in our bank account, but it's the meaning that we tie to it, the meaning that we give it, that we tell ourselves a story that if my husband does or doesn't spend this money on me, does or doesn't spend money on this particular thing, what does that mean about him and about us? And then we attach that meaning to it, and then we live in that story. And that's something that we can separate unless we become aware of it and choose to separate and see what's really going on at an objective level. we're going to bring that story with us into the relationship. And that's the stuff that gets in the way. It's usually when couples have intimacy struggles, it's sometimes about body image or lack of very basic knowledge. But usually it's much more complex than that.
I didn't know that you were a money coach on the side. You're moonlighting as a money coach when you're really working with couples in their intimacy. But yes, I agree with you. It all comes when I work with when I work with my clients on their money. So we do get the relationship. We do get the relationship with themselves, with their bodies, it's all part of the work.
Yeah, for sure.
What are some ways that you can share with the listeners that you help your clients improve their intimacy with themselves first, and then with their partners? Because I imagine, we didn't talk about this ahead of time, but I imagine that it all starts with us first.
I think it goes back to the belief that we're worthy. And this ties into everything, because this will tie into money and this will tie into intimacy. I'm worthy of being loved. I'm worthy of pleasure. I'm worthy of earning money. Like it's all going to be very intertwined. And intimacy with another person has to start with us believing that we're worthy. Because if I'm worthy and I believe that I'm worthy, then I will, by definition, believe that you are also worthy. So the more we believe that as a human being created in the image of God, that we are worthy, well, then the person standing right in front of us, looking into our eyes, is also a human being created in the image of God, and he's also worthy. So all intimacy with another person begins with that deep belief and knowledge of self-worth.
I don't know if you can answer this question. I think it's really the root of all of our issues that you see, is that we don't feel worthy of love, worthy of intimacy, pleasure, money. When you're working with your clients to shift that belief, I want to ask you a cheeky question, like, how long does it take? Right? It's like, how long is a piece of string? But as you help your clients to shift their belief system and their feelings of worthiness, like, what do you see? Yes, I do want to ask that question. How long does it take? Like, does the EFT help people to shift it in a day, in a session, in a week? Is it something that we have to keep visiting and revisiting because we have a human brain with a human ego, and we always go back to that? Even if we've dug one layer, we have to keep excavating and turning things over and finding the next deeper layer. Tell us a little bit about that.
So it's interesting because for some clients, it's magical. It just happens. Something will come in the session, maybe a core memory. We'll do some tapping. Something will come up, and suddenly there'll be just this profound shift that I myself sit there and think to myself, wow, that's like a miracle of God. How does that happen so fast? But what I do see I'd say on average, is that usually if we're focusing, and the way I work with my clients is we begin our sessions with a very, very goal-oriented approach. What's the exact goal you're coming from? If someone's going to come and say, I came to work on my intimate relationship. What about it? What's not working about it? And we'll try to really, really break it down to the smallest parts and figure out what's the goal. Make sure that goal is a measurable goal, an attainable goal, a realistic goal. If someone who says to me, I want to work on always being in the mood to be with my husband. Let's read some science. Is that even possible? Is a woman always in the mood? Can she always be in the mood? Let's try to adjust that and make it more realistic. And once we're able to break that down and make it very realistic and get a goal, and usually we spend the first session doing that, that's already half the solution, which I'm sure you've also seen in your work, that the more we have a clear goal in mind, the more then once we achieve that goal, we know we got there. If you don't know where you're going, you're not going to know that you got there when you get there because you never had a goal in mind. So having that goal in mind is very important. And then what I usually see is that within a few sessions, if we are working very, very close, hand in hand with our goal, then I do usually see within a few sessions, anywhere from 2 to 5, very profound shifts, often enough for a woman to just do, let's say, a few sessions. And I say to the women that come to work with me, let's try a few sessions and then let's take a break. And then let's see what happens over the next few weeks, few months, integrate the shifts that we discussed, the realizations that you had. You can always come back and we can continue to work. Now, of course, at every level, like you taught me, and I love this, the devil at every level where we meet ourselves anew, there are going to be things that we need to work on, and they're usually going to be familiar. It's going to almost feel like, haven't I been here already? But when we step back, when we zoom out, we say, no, I haven't exactly been here already. It's familiar, but I have more maturity, more compassion, more space in me to contain me, my husband, the situation. So I'm coming at it from maybe a little bit of a different angle. It may never fully go away, but I'm working, like you were saying, excavating at deeper levels. So for instance, this concept of working on self-worth, I don't think it's something that we do and we check off our list. And now for the rest of our life, we will feel worthy every single day. No, I think that this is going to continue to be triggered and challenged. But I do think that there is a basic level of work that doesn't necessarily have to take long, that will at least set our trajectory different than it was until now. So if, let's say, until now, before a woman comes to do this work, it's almost like she doesn't stand a chance. Like, her negative feelings are so deep. It feels like that's who she is. It's not the thoughts that she's thinking or the feelings that she's feeling. It's like, I am not worthy. That will hopefully shift to, I am worthy. And I'm struggling with layers of thoughts and feelings of low self-esteem or lack of self-worth. So just making that separation is already a huge gift. And we have to, like you said, keep on revisiting.
I like the way you said that we will keep revisiting it from time to time, whenever those times are. It will feel familiar. And you also said that our work is never done.
Never.
If we want to keep working, right? If we want to focus again every year, every 5 years, whatever, every few months on our intimacy and our relationship with ourselves and our partners, we can keep going deeper. And I like to think that when we're going deeper in terms of understanding and excavating what's going on inside of us, we can also build our relationships taller, broader, wider, stronger. Like there's more potential on the upside because we've gone deeper on the inside.
As long as we want to grow, we're going to have to work. That's the law of nature. Like if you have a piece of land and you do nothing, it's going to grow weeds. That's just the way nature is. If you want it to grow a beautiful garden, you're going to have to work. That's it. That's the rule. So if you want to grow and you want your marriage to grow and you want your income to grow and you want the abundance, it's not even so much about the numbers of your income. You want abundance in your life. Abundance shows up in many forms, right? Today, there's a lot of talk about abundance. Someone can be making so much money and they can have such a huge income, but they don't have abundance in their life because they don't have a partner who loves them. They don't have children who love them. They're not surrounded with love. They're surrounded with people who feel maybe threatened by them or want to keep a distance because they're not a pleasant person to be around. That's not an abundant life, right? So when we talk about abundance, we're talking about abundance in intimacy, abundance in love, abundance in spiritual connection, abundance in financial security, like in so many areas. So if you want to grow the abundance in our life, to grow our capacity to be recipients to this abundance, it requires us, like you said, to go deeper and deeper and become wider and wider. Till our very last breath.
And what you said is that it doesn't matter how much money somebody has, how many possessions, how big their house is. If you don't feel abundant, then you're not going to have the experience of abundance. It doesn't rely on stuff or that number in the bank account that says 1 million or 1 billion or 1 trillion, because there's an internal feeling of lack.
Right.
And that's where we have to do it.
Which is also true with intimacy, because part of the work that I do with women, and it's fascinating. I love when they have this like aha moment, when you suddenly realize that love is all around. I'll give you an example. For instance, if you have a couple where he's not Mr. Word, he's not great with words, but he'll go to the moon and back for his wife. So she comes to me because she feels like people are coming to me mainly because of intimacy issues, not because of general marriage issues. So she'll come to me because she's been married for 5 years, got 2 kids, she's never in the mood to be with her husband, she has zero desire. Like these are one of the most common things that women come to see me for. Never in the mood, never in the mood. Okay, so fine. So we start, I start by asking her a whole bunch of questions. Fine, we narrow it down. What's at the root of it? She's just feeling so empty, so depleted. And for most women, their emotional desire and their physiological desire are very intertwined, almost inseparable. So she's just feeling empty in the marriage and feeling unhappy. She says to me, and I know my husband's a good guy and I know he loves me, but I don't feel it. I don't feel it. And part of the work that I do with them, and I love when it happens, and suddenly it's like you feel like in their the light goes back on in their eye. It's like, wow, I'm surrounded by love when we're able to help women shift from, like you're saying, the same idea of abundance, from a lack mindset of I don't have enough love in my life to realizing that maybe the love is showing up in ways different than I expected. And perhaps I am not communicating what I need clearly enough. So there's no space for that to show up because I'm not opening up to it. And when a woman learns to do that work, and A, recognizing that there's more love than she thinks, and B, to learn to communicate her needs in a way that her husband's able to hear it and understand it, feel empowered and give back, then she suddenly feels like she's surrounded by love. And it's the same thing with money, because I have for sure seen this shift in my own life. This is even way before I started working with you. And I feel like that was what got me on this journey, which eventually start working with you one-on-one. But the very, very first, I would say the first seed planted was when that movie, The Secret, became very, very popular. I remember hearing about it, reading about it, watching parts of it, and just walking away feeling very, very confused. And I remember even having like a whole long conversation with my father and then my husband, who are both very learned people, and just asking them, like, is this true? Like, does God really run the world like this? Like, is this nature? Like, is it really nature that if we think positive, then positive things will happen? Do we really create the world with our thoughts? And that set me on a life-altering, magnificent journey. And I just remember that one of the very first shifts that I made was this point. I was in such lack. Like, we don't have enough money. We don't have enough money. We're never going to have enough money. Like this lack mindset. And then to just stop and think, like, 1 second, maybe I do have enough. Maybe there's more than I think. And I made it a point to start to notice anytime in my wallet I had change left after going to the store, because up until that point, I had this belief about myself, because that became my experience, that I always have exactly enough. But I'll always come home without change.
Okay.
And then I started to notice that that's not true. There are times that I do come home with a few coins in my wallet. And I started to make a point of noticing, and even taking that money and starting to put it into like a separate little piggy bank, and to start to notice that, wait, there is more abundance. Or just to start look around me. And instead of looking at the world through lack, looking at the world through the eyes of abundance. And it's amazing how, just like in a relationship, when we choose to focus on the love that is all around us, that brings more love into our life.
Right.
When we choose to focus on the abundance in our life, that is, because everyone has abundance in their life to different extents. But even if right now I have debt, okay, even if I have debt and I don't, quote unquote, have a lot of money in my bank account, but I have other abundances in my life. So the more I focus on the abundance, that creates and invites more abundance into our life. And I've seen that again and again and again and again. And the crazy thing is that even though I know this in my head so clearly and I can articulate it so well, it's still, when it comes to me and my own business and my own stuff, I got to do the work. Can't run away from it, right? It challenges me every single time, like you said, to go deeper and build deeper foundations and wider edifices, taller edifices.
I love it. I love it. So since you already brought that up, let's talk about your journey as a business owner. You and I started working together one-on-one in 2020. Then you took a break for about a year, and you recently joined my group program, Wired for Wealth. Tell us a little bit about where you were, if you remember, if we can scratch the surfaces of our memory. Where were you in 2020? How did you end up the year after we worked together for 6 months? And where are you now? And then you can also share where your business is going.
So I'll start even before, because I consider you my teacher for longer than we've been working one-on-one together. Like from the very first email that I received from you, and I was like, wow, this Debbie Sasson, I like her. I like what she has to say. It resonates with me. It rings true. And I was just also able to relate a lot to just you being probably more than a little ahead of the game than where I'm holding life. But I almost I saw in you a role model, because I said to myself, like, here it is, it's someone who we come from, we live in similar communities. We're raising our children in a similar system. We're building families with similar values. And you're like ahead of the game, however many years, senior yards to me. And I said, wow, like she could do it. Like if she could do it, then maybe I could do it. Like that to me was very, very, very empowering. I think that that's also why I right away just connected with everything you said. So I also signed up for some of your 1K investor. There was another mini course that I did. I read your book. So I've been on your email list for a very long time now, for many, many years. I'd say probably as early as me launching my own online project. And when I was launching my own online project, which I'll talk about in a minute, I was looking for people in my community who are doing something similar in the sense of they have something, they're online, they're putting themselves out there, right? They're women, they're mothers, and they're doing it successfully. And I just remember that being very, very, very inspiring. So that's, I really want to publicly thank you for that. But when we first started working in 2020, so prior to that, I had, as you said, I started out as preparing brides for their wedding, and then eventually that morphed into guiding women and turning that into, there was such a need, turning that into an online course, which is a whole miracle on its own, how that materialized and happened. So once I got online and I have this online course, and thank God it was very successful from the very start, which in a way it's interesting because I look around and I see some people, they go online and they struggle a lot at the beginning and they have to figure it out and they have to figure it out again and they have to keep on doing it and not give up. And then eventually they become successful. And in my case, I was very blessed with immediate success. I sent out an email. I got so many replies. So many women came to my first webinar, almost unheard of. And so many women purchased the first round of what at the time was a live course on intimacy, which at the time was very, very unique because intimacy is such a private topic, especially in our community. And it is something that is not spoken about. And to a large extent, rightfully so, intimacy is something that should ideally be given over from mother to daughter, from father to son. It's just like money, right? The education for money should be given over in a healthy way in the home. That's where we should learn. That's where we should absorb our gratitude and our belief of in God and abundance. Like all of that should be given over in an ideal world at home. That's where we learn the most important things about life. So going online and creating a course about intimacy was quite unique and tricky. But of course I did it, and hopefully I pray that I did it the right way with the right intentions and that only good should come from it. But it was so needed that I decided to go ahead and do it. So I was coming really only from this perspective of, I have a gift. I need to share this with the world. I don't have enough time in my day to meet one-on-one with the entire population, right? And how can I get this information? I find myself repeating so much information again and again and again and again. What if the women who came to work with me first did my course and heard the information? They would then need less sessions with me. It would cost them less money. It would cost me less time. I can help more people. So these were the thoughts that went into creating the course. So unbeknownst to me, I go online and I put this course out, and Baruch Hashem, thank God, it was so successful. And I feel like for me, that was a little bit also, I don't want to say what, it was like a blockage or a roadblock, because once that success happened once, almost effortlessly, having to repeat that again was like, how do I do this again? Like, what did I do? And that's when I started to struggle a lot. And that's when I started to realize that I need to shift the way I'm looking at what I'm doing. I can't just look at it as showing up and sharing my gift with the world, and whoever's going to want to come is just going to come knock on my door and say, hi, can I please buy your course? It's not going to work. And that's when I entered this pattern, which I'm still working on breaking out of, let's say, going out there, putting myself out there, doing a free webinar, running a campaign, selling however many courses, and then just disappearing for months. And that's when I came to see you. After going through this, like up and down, but like a very, very extreme up and down, like showing up, doing an amazing campaign, and then disappearing for months. And then somehow pulling myself together, finding what it needs within me, doing it again, and then disappearing for months. And that's extremely, extremely exhausting. And that's, I think, when I showed up to work with you. It was during Corona, and I knew that I had to do something. And I just thought, like, try as I may, I'm not self-motivated enough to do the work. And that's when we worked privately one-on-one, and we worked through a lot of my money story and my money blockages and the things from home and the positives and the things that still need to be worked on. Like all of that really is what we worked on, if I remember correctly. I don't know. It feels like a long time ago. And I remember like there were some very, very, very big shifts that happened during that time. Again, in me growing my capacity for abundance. And then when we finished working together, I don't remember what was going on. I just know that we moved and it was a crazy year. And then we got Corona and then I married off a daughter. Like a lot was going on. And then again, I fell back into that same trap of showing up and then disappearing, showing up and then disappearing, even with my mailing list, like writing an email of like, I want to share, please God, I'm taking it upon myself to share more emails and then just like disappearing for months, right? When you advertise the Wired for Wealth, I just knew like, this is what I need. I need to work again at a deeper level. I need to break out of that pattern of showing up and disappearing. I need to reach a certain level of consistency. What I see is happening through our work together is instead of me looking at myself as I prepare brides, I'm a therapist. Oh, and I also, by the way, have a cute online course that I can offer you. It's like, no, I have an incredible online course on intimacy. It will change your life because it changed my life. It changed the life of hundreds of women and thousands of women who are on my mailing list who receive my content, which, by the way, I've started to write to them much more regularly, which I'm very proud of myself for that. And realizing that the only way that I can really impact all the people that I feel so passionate to impact, because that is my passion, to share my gift, I'll do that any day. The only way that I can really do that is if I realize that what I'm doing is essentially running a business. How blessed I am that the business that I'm running is a business where I love to get up in the morning and come to my office and do the work I do. It's a business that I'm so blessed to be able to completely, really like revolutionize the lives of many. But it's a business. And if I don't look at it that way, then I won't survive more than a day. And that's what was happening at the beginning. And now looking back, I understand that the showing up and the disappearing was a symptom of that core belief or the lack of belief and knowledge that this is a business. And I feel like for women like myself, and Debbie, I'm sure you see this with the work with women who are, what we call today heart-centered businesses, right? We're doing this not because the only thing that's pushing us is because we need to make money. Yeah, of course we need to make money. I'm not going to lie to anyone. Why do I charge money for my course? Because I need to make money. Of course I do. We all do. We live in a world where that's the currency. We need to make money. We're doing what we do because we love doing it, because we want to share it. And that's what makes it hard for us to view it as a business. Anyone who I gave my course to for free or at a very reduced price, I could go and I could see who did their courses, who finished, who did their exercises. I could see. You can just see the people who do it for free don't do it. And I know myself, I have a friend who is a very talented ADHD coach, and one of my children has ADHD, and I know that there's so much she can teach me. She gave me her course. It's like an over $1,000 course. She said, here, take it for free. Did I ever listen once? I listened to one class. And I know that if I would have paid $1,000, I would show up every week and listen. So the shift from, I want to do this for free. I don't want to have to charge money. I don't want to talk about money. Money's uncomfortable. It's embarrassing for me to say that my course costs money. Who do you think you are to charge money for talking about intimacy and changing people's lives? You should just do it for free. From moving from that mindset to realizing that the only way I can really help people is by showing up as a business owner, running a business that makes sense, a business that's functional. Otherwise, it's not going to survive. I'm not going to survive. Charging them. Because by them paying money, they're committed, they're showing up. That's the only way I can help them. Just all of those shifts, which I'm still working on, but today I have so much more clarity on, that's all due to the work that we've done together. It's been an awesome journey.
Thank you. I'm so glad to hear that. I'll say two things. One is the little phrase that I love to use that relates to what you said last. And that is when people pay money, they pay attention.
It's so true. It's so true.
Because we feel that emotional connection because of our relationship with money. When we pay, we feel that inner obligation to show up and do the work.
See, there needs to be an emotional exchange.
Correct. And that's exactly what money is. Money represents that energetic exchange of value. And when we give up something that we see as valuable, we want to receive something that's equally valuable or even more valuable. So we will show up and do the work that we paid for. That's number one. Number two, your immediate success with your course is like winning the lottery. Someone buys a lottery ticket, wins $1 million, $1 billion, whatever the latest lottery is worth. It can change who you are. if you do the work to change your financial identity. But what we see with lottery winners is most lottery winners will lose the money within 2 to 3 years. And many of them will be even worse off than they were in the beginning. It's just this energetic shift that they're not ready for because they haven't done the inner work. They're still seeing themselves. So many people who buy lottery tickets don't have a lot of money.
Right.
And all of a sudden, there is this huge like cash machine from the sky that just falls down and the money is all over the place. But inside, they're still in a lack mentality, or they're still living with, whether it's $50,000 a year of income, $100,000, whatever their number is, they are not the people who have $1 million in their bank account or the 10 or $100 million in their bank account. And that takes an energetic shift. And for you to have the capacity to receive more money and receive more clients and to put more value into the world for which you can receive money requires you to expand your energetic capacity to receive more, to ask for more, have more, and receive more. And that's the work that you're doing now. And as you recalibrate your financial thermostat, that will enable you to receive more and not to self-sabotage, meaning you disappear for 2 months or 3 months or however long it is. It's like the thermostat for your air conditioning. It's still hot in Israel. We're still in September, right? And if you set your air conditioning for 23 degrees Celsius, when it gets to 23 in the room, the air conditioner will shut off and then the temperature will go back up and then the air conditioner will turn on and cool the room down to 23. So similarly, you can receive a lot of money when you show up, you share your course with your email list, people will buy, and then you're going to shut off your thermostat. It's not going to be an intentional thing that you decide to do. It will just happen because your thermostat is set at a certain income. And when you hit that income, you're going to shut it off till you drop. And then it'll be like, oh, I haven't sent out an email in a while. People haven't bought my course in a while. So we have to recalibrate your financial identity and reset your financial thermostat for more. It's as simple as that.
As you're saying this, Debbie, it's the same thing with intimacy. It's like there's more love than your nervous system is used to accepting and feeling. And most couples who start off at that point will eventually crash.
Interesting.
They will eventually crash, yes. And then it's like, okay, do we now spend the next 50 years talking about, oh, the good old days, and basically miss the life in the present, and it just kind of like disappears between our fingers, right? And life is over before you know it. Or do we say, what we had at the beginning was a gift. We were showered with this beautiful gift. Now let's build the capacity in our nervous system, in our connection within us, right? In the dynamic, in the home, to allow for that level of love. And then when you build it, it becomes real. It becomes yours. So looking back at my own journey, the success at the beginning, I feel like because intimacy was such a needed topic and there was no one, maybe few people were doing it already, but I don't know that it was being done online the way I was doing it yet at that point that these days become much more popular. And I would like to believe that hopefully I am part of a positive revolution in enabling the conversation. Of course, the conversation has to, like I said, it has to still be done in a refined way, in a private way, in a respectful way, but it needs to happen. So at the beginning, being blessed with this huge success, yes, of course I showed up. I mean, I put the course together. There were sleepless nights. It was stressful. Yeah, I showed up. I know I did. But as far as the marketing and the viewing myself as a business owner and learning to ask for money, like I didn't do any of that yet. I wasn't aware of that yet because I feel like the need was so big. But once that first wave subsided, it's like, okay, Crash, now do the work. Now do the work so that once again, you can become that recipient of that abundance in a much more integrated way, in a real way, in a wholesome way that's part of you, not by accident, not by chance, but because you've grown into that leader, you've grown into that person, and then it's so much more powerful, and then your capacity is so much greater.
Right.
Like you were saying, your capacity to receive and therefore to give. Because the more you can receive, the more you can give. It's two sides of the same coin.
I agree 100%. Let's tie this interview where we're talking about intimacy and relationships and abundance to our relationship with God. Because right now, during the holiday of Sukkot, this is our most intimate relationship with God. And as we have been saying, it's a relationship that we always have to be working on, right? There are people who are naturally spiritual, right? They just wake up every morning. They feel connected with their creator. They feel connected with the universe. They have this beautiful, warm feeling flooded through them. And they might, especially maybe when we're younger teenagers and we have more time, freedom on our hand. We don't have a partner. We don't have a business. We don't have children. And then all of a sudden we might like crash, as you were talking about the relationship, like things that came so naturally. All of a sudden we have to work on them harder. We have to put more intentionality into our relationship.
Exactly.
Right.
It doesn't necessarily have to be hard. It just has to be intentional.
Right. I didn't mean that like physically, like lifting boulders or anything. But when there are so many other moving parts in our life, right, God can get pushed to the side. Even though we have this awareness in our psyche that, yes, there's a God, there's a creator, and I imagine as mothers, we're thankful for our children and we are thankful for all the abundance. But as you said, when we actually pay attention, whether it's the change that's left in your wallet at the end of a shopping trip, or the fact that your husband took the garbage out, your kids maybe cleaned up the toys, whatever it is, when we're focusing on the good things, we see more of that. So especially now in this time of year, how would you recommend or suggest that people create a deeper, more intimate relationship with God?
So first of all, just like intimacy is very intimate, right? And it's very unique in every relationship, how that intimacy is going to show up, just as is every woman's journey, every CEO of her business, every woman who works with you, her own unique journey with her money story and her work with money is very, very personal. I feel like the same thing. Everyone's relationship with God, by definition, is so unique and personal because there is no other you. There's no other one in the world who can have your relationship with God. Only you can. Mm-hmm. So it's a very, very individual, unique, personal, private experience. And everyone has to figure out what enables them. You were saying like sometimes God gets pushed aside. And I think that the work is to realize that it's not that there's God and everything else, and sometimes he gets pushed aside, but rather to see that there is only God. Everything is an expression of God. The love in our life, the abundance in our life, the food in our life, the cooking in our life, the laundry in our life, the business in our life, everything is all an expression of God. God created the world for us as an opportunity to connect with him. That's the ultimate pleasure. That's the ultimate good. That's the ultimate intimacy. And by being able to see, especially for us women, where we do get so busy with, like you were saying, we spend the holiday in the kitchen. We spend it in the kitchen. We're cooking galore, cooking up meals. And we could so easily lose sight of the fact that really what we're doing with all the quote unquote physicality, searching our soul, searching for that spiritual lift, realizing that God is in the kitchen. God is in the bedroom. God is with us on the porch. God is with us everywhere because God is existence. And the more we connect to that, because that is the source of abundance, because God is eternal, God is abundant. And the more we connect to that, the more we will see that love is all around us. Really, everything else is just showing up in our lives as masks, where we are expected to see beyond the mask, to see what's behind the mask, and to see how really, really, really everything's God.
I love that. Thank you so much. Before we close up this interview, I want you to share, number one, the biggest money transformation that you have had that you'd like my listeners to hear about and to experience and see what is available to them when they do the work on their money and their money story, and for the women who are building businesses, what's available to them. And then let us know how people can get in touch with you if they want to create a deeper, more intimate relationship with themselves and their partners.
So first of all, the money transformation, that's a fascinating question because really it's made up of a lot of little parts. Like while you're going through it, you might not even realize that you are in the transformation. Like it's happening through you right this very minute, It's like you look back and you suddenly like connect the dots. Wow, so I heard this podcast and then I got on her mailing list and then I this and then I that, right? Like in your case, it was like someone mentioned your name. I looked you up online. I got on your mailing list. I loved what you had. I signed up for your course. You mentioned a certain book. I read the book. I reached out to you. Like it just, like I can't even remember. I can't even trace. Like it's so many little mini steps along the way that just together turn into this beautiful transformation, starting out, like I said, being, for me, my story, being afraid of money, feeling like I want to have nothing to do with it, handing over the check to my husband, you take care of it. I don't want to have anything to do with it. To being able to sit down and say, together, we take care of our family. Together, we run this business. I love money, not because I love money per se, but because I love the opportunity of helping other people. I love that they're able to exchange energy, give me their money, and I could give them something that can change their life. I could then take that money and use it to help others. Because if I'm not sustaining my family, then I won't be able to help others. So being able to realize that money is such an incredible blessing in our life, I would say that that's probably the biggest transformation. Going from having this hate relationship, well, really love-hate relationship, because I hate money. I want to have nothing to do with it, except when, I need this and I need this and I need that and I need that, right? And my husband, he's the bad guy, because here, I hand over the check to him. You take care of the money. And when I need something, well, if you're handing over the check and you don't want to look at the numbers, and when I have to say no, well, you have to accept that, right?
Right.
So just all the tension that brings into the marriage. And like you said, everyone's money story that they bring with them into the marriage, going from not being willing to look at the money, having anxiety over the thought of having to manage a bank account, to be able to go into my bank account and look at the numbers, to be someone who's able to sit down and say, so how much money did the business bring in this year? And how much do I want to bring in next year? What do I need to do in order to hopefully meet those goals? And what do I want to do once I do meet those goals? What are the changes I want to make? What's more light I could bring into the world when I hopefully do meet those goals? Like, to be able to even think in those terms, I would say that that's the biggest transformation. And I think that for a lot of women, I see this across the board. It could go back to the fact that naturally a man is a provider. That's the way God created the world. You know, that the man is the provider and the woman is the recipient, not a passive recipient, as in, I don't have to do anything. It's a whole podcast on itself, which we're obviously not gonna elaborate upon right now. But I do think that there's this very, very natural state of mind that a woman has of, you take care of me. You're the husband. You take care of me. You are the provider. And I feel that this gets in the way for a lot of women who do want to open up businesses. And especially in today's world where there is so much respect and space for heart-centered, especially female business owners, which is an incredible thing to see. It's so beautiful. This is something fairly new. And this is something that, yes, it's true that it still is a patriarchal world, and it's definitely still a man's world, but I really, really think that's shifting. And I think that even the men in the world are starting to realize that the women are bringing to the table something that for hundreds of years they couldn't. And I think that there's so much space today and reverence for that feminine space. And I think that that's beautiful. So for a lot of women, what might get in their way is this part, because they have the heart-centered mission. They have the dream, right? But then it's like, but it has to be a business. And that's where a lot of women, I think, just like shut down and say, forget it, I can't do it. So my message to you is you can do it. You can do it. You can make that shift. It doesn't mean that you have to sacrifice your femininity. It doesn't mean that you have to turn into a man. You have to realize that there is so much that you can do with your feminine power, with your feminine beauty, in the softness and the heart-centeredness and the feeling that you could do, and yet at the same time still be able to put on that thinking cap, right? That like higher function of the brain, and yes, be able to look at numbers and not be petrified by them, and realize, again, like I said before, that if you want to be able to show up in the world and really make a difference, then it's going to have to involve monetary exchange. That's just the way the world is today. We can't avoid that. So if your dream is big enough, hopefully those blockages won't get in the way. And if they do get in the way, then call Debbie Sasson.
Thank you. That's such a perfect way to end the interview and to end the podcast today. Faigy, let everybody know where you are online and how they can find you.
Okay, so they can email me at, it's a little long, so there'll be a link to the page online where you can see my course and you can purchase my course. Then there will also be a link to sign up to my mailing list, which is basically a free class that I gave, like an introduction class. And then by doing so, you are signed up to my mailing list. And you can email me at Faigy Pollock, FAIGY POLLO, not an A, POLLOCK at unblockyourway.co.il. So it'll all be linked in the show notes, and anyone who's looking to work with me, I graciously accept whoever comes my way, whoever I'm available at the moment to hopefully assist. And I hope and pray that just like you, Debbie, have been such a blessing in my life and helping me open up my heart to more abundance. I hope that I too will be able to help women in their journey to greater intimacy. And together we should always be able to really operate from our heart, from that love, from that passion, from that clarity of our mission in this world, help and empower other women to do the same.
Amen. All right. Thank you so much. And I wish you and the listeners Chag Sameach, happy holidays. And I look forward to seeing you next week on the next episode of Mastering Money in Midlife. Bye for now.
Thanks for listening to Mastering Money in Midlife. If you want more information on Debbie Sasson or the resources from the podcast, visit masteringmoneyinmidlife.com.